I had never ventured far from home before. The campus, the city, the students, all of it blurred together into an overwhelming rush of faces and sounds. Everything felt unfamiliar, like a world I had yet to claim as my own. I was just another name on a class roster, one among many. The ache of being away from home never truly faded. I longed for my mother's voice over the phone, the way she always sounded worried even when I was telling her something trivial. I missed the clatter of dishes at dinner, the quiet hum of life that filled the house. More than anything, I missed the feeling of belonging, of being more than just a background presence. Here, I felt invisible, like I was drifting in a current I couldn't control. I was in my second semester studying art, the only thing that ever seemed to fill the emptiness inside me. I hadn't chosen it because it was easy or practical, but because it offered an escape, a way to express the emotions I couldn't put into words. I spent countless hours in the studio, letting my brush guide me, creating pieces that were more fragments of myself than I cared to admit. Yet, even here I often felt like an outsider. The other students carried themselves with such ease, their friendships seamless, their laughter echoing through the halls. I watched from the edges, uncertain of how to step in, unsure if I even belonged. It wasn't that I didn't want to be part of something. It was just that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was meant to be an observer rather than a participant. The loneliness followed me, creeping into my thoughts when I wasn't engrossed in my work, whispering doubts I couldn't silence. But Professor Alden was different. He was older, a seasoned artist with a steady presence that contrasted the frantic energy of campus life. He spoke deliberately, as if every word carried weight, and there was an unspoken authority in his demeanor that demanded attention without effort. At first, I admired him from a distance. He wasn't the type to command a room with gestures or loud declarations, yet his gaze was magnetic. His graying hair, the lines etched around his eyes, everything about him suggested a life rich with experience, a wisdom worth noticing. I found myself drawn to him, though I couldn't explain why. It was easy to attribute it to his talent, his passion for art that infused every lecture, but deep down, I knew there was something more. Something unsettling. He reminded me of someone I had longed for but could never reach. A father figure. I didn't acknowledge it at first, didn't even let the thought take shape. But I couldn't ignore the way he looked at me, the way he made me feel seen in a room full of strangers. Around him, I wasn't just another student. It felt as though he could see through the walls I had built, through the carefully concealed parts of myself. That night in the studio changed everything. I hadn't meant to stay so late. I had been lost in my painting, absorbed in the rhythm of the brush, the colors blending into something that felt like an extension of myself. The studio had become my refuge. When I painted, the loneliness, the yearning, the emptiness, they all faded away. It was just me and my work, and for a little while that was enough. I wasn't thinking about anything else, certainly not about him, when I heard the soft sound of footsteps. The air seemed to shift, growing heavier, as if time itself had slowed. Before I even turned around, I felt his presence. I hesitated. Should I continue working, pretend I hadn't noticed? But the moment I looked up, I found him standing there, watching me. Something changed in that instant. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, or maybe it was the way his presence made the rest of the world seem distant and unimportant. I had always been someone who hid behind my work, who remained unseen. But tonight, there was no hiding. I felt exposed. He stepped closer, and I didn't move away. There was something about his approach. Calm, unthreatening, safe. It wasn't the kind of attention that came with expectations or demands. It was something gentler, something that touched the parts of me I had kept locked away. It felt as though he understood without words, as though he saw what I had never shown anyone. When his hand brushed mine, the touch was light, hesitant. It wasn't an intrusion. It was an offering. A silent question. And yet, something inside me whispered that it was already too late. I was already leaning toward him. He wasn't asking anything of me, wasn't forcing anything upon me. His touch was slow, deliberate, giving me the space to retreat if I chose to. But I didn't want to. There was something steady in the way he held my hand, something grounding. The silence between us stretched, thick and heavy, yet it wasn't uncomfortable. The world outside this moment ceased to exist. Every rational thought told me to step back, to break the spell before it pulled me in too deep. But I didn't want it to end. For once, I wasn't lost in the background. I had found a place to rest, a space where I could simply be. When his hand moved to my neck, heat spread through me, my heartbeat unsteady. Did he feel it? It was overwhelming and yet so strangely calming. I had never felt so noticed before, so fully seen. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breath, but all I could focus on was the quiet rhythm of his touch, the way it made everything else fade away. His lips against my skin, soft, hesitant, sent a shiver through me. I hadn't realized how much I had craved tenderness until that moment. It wasn't a kiss meant to claim or demand. It was simply a connection, a silent acknowledgement that neither of us were alone. And when he finally kissed me, slow and gentle, I fell deeper into the moment, into a space I hadn't known existed. It wasn't just about the physical touch, it was about feeling like I mattered. Like I was something more than a shadow on the edges of life. When he pulled away, the space between us felt vast, yet for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel empty. The days that followed blurred together, the weight of that night lingering between us, unspoken but ever present. I didn't know what it meant or where it would lead. But one thing was certain. I had found a part of myself I had been searching for. And for the first time since coming here, I didn't feel alone. Maybe it was his touch, or maybe it was the way he saw me, but in that moment, I knew I had found something more than just a connection. I had found the missing pieces of myself. And though the future remained uncertain, I finally felt like I had a place here. A place where I belonged.